from Sigma Pensions, head of research, the man himself. Wale, good morning.
Good morning, Lagos.
Good to have you, sir. Good to have you, sir. Lagos, you know the drill. Please send your messages 0809 4440981. Also, we're streaming on YouTube, youtube.com/smooth981. And then on Twitter, tweet us at smooth981FM. All right, Wale, let's start with oil. Let's start with OPEC. It looks like they are considering a further 500,000 barrels per day output cut. This is what sources are saying. I guess maybe this is a fallout from the emergency meeting following the whole outbreak of the coronavirus. Well, what's your take on how, why they're considering this and how we could possibly be affected?
Yeah, so I think the coronavirus, one of the biggest thing it has done to crude oil demand is that you've seen what people are saying demand destruction essentially. So I think over the weekend, people said about 3,000 air flights have been per day are being cut off just because countries are trying to just sort of cut off any traffic to China.
Yeah.
Also, you also see jet fuel demand has dropped almost over 20%. And so I think what all of this is just shaping up is that people are now getting worried about crude oil demand in 2020. And so because of that, OPEC is saying, okay, we think maybe the current market may be oversupplied if we don't do anything. And so in December, OPEC had agreed to deepen its previous cut. So it's now doing about 1.7 to 1.8 million barrels per day,
Yeah.
lower than what it was doing previously. And so there's talk about another 500,000 barrels per day, which takes us to well over 2 million barrels per day cut. So what that means is that some of that burden would have to be also carried and shared along by group members like Nigeria. And I think increasingly, if this is the picture, then we would struggle because, I mean, we we're running a deficit. I mean, now ask us to even do even more cutting. I don't think, and prices are lower, so I'm not too sure that will go down well with NMPC.
Gosh. And looking at how this is all going to affect China, is China in danger of another recession? Which, not another, excuse me, because they didn't face one recently, but is China in danger of a recession? And could that now cascade into, as far as the globe is concerned, because of China's, contribution to global GDP, massive amounts of demand for energy commodities? Do you think that could? What do you see? Because it looks like things are getting worse.
Yeah, if there's no breakthrough on the virus front, I mean, I think because what you're seeing now is whole Chinese cities are being sort of cut off. People are restricting movement between places, and I mean, China is like the manufacturing warehouse of the world,
Yeah,
literally.
yeah.
So if activity is slowing down there, I mean, a whole lot of you can expect the ripple effect will be felt generally across board. I think what you see is that Chinese group would pretty much slow. I mean, we're used to China doing at least 6, 7. I mean, I'm sure in the first quarter they will probably do well below that because,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
they
then
are
you add
just
a
not
trade
allowing
war as
people
well,
move. They're not just allowing people move
between cities and
cities
so
in
on. Yeah.
China. So you can imagine what you mean. Transportation, goods probably aren't being moved as well. So everybody stay where you are. I think
Wow.
yeah.
Something else. Okay, now, so let's now tie this because we've talked about this OPEC cut possibly, if they go through with it, what the impact on us. I want to get your take on this headline here about the federal government of Nigeria recording a 4.62 trillion naira fiscal deficit in 2019. Because if I remember correctly, the budget deficit, I think we're looking at about 2 trillion or so, and this is double what this as far as the actuals are concerned. Help us out. What are we seeing here?
Yeah, I mean that number was it was probably by CBN came out of the blue Larry. I mean
Mm.
the revenue numbers they just posted about government just recorded about 4 trillion revenues deficit of about on the expense side. However, they ended up spending close to 9 trillion the expense side. So clearly, those two numbers just mean that look, I mean, relative to what the government was planning last year, they were not able to get most of it. I mean, part of it was from the oil side, but most of it I think was from the non-oil revenue target, which I think they missed
Mm.
largely over most of last year. And so our 2020 budget is being premised on us producing 2.2 million barrels per day and a benchmark oil price of $57 a barrel. I mean, the crude oil price is already
In that
below that.
region, yeah,
Yeah, we're
yeah.
already below that. And clearly, I don't think we're going to. So we may be able to produce that, but whether we may be able to ship that because of the OPEC agreement is a different thing entirely. So we saw in December Nigeria's output actually declined, and I suspect most of that was most likely the fact that maybe we produced it, but we just didn't ship it out.
Mm.
And I think if OPEC is talking about a new cut, it just means that the oil revenue picture is likely going to get a bit worse. And I don't know whether an OPEC cut might be able to actually turn around the fortunes of crude oil prices, because if Chinese demand is coming off, then
Yes, it's
the
reduced. Yeah.
prices would really need, I mean, you need a very big cut from OPEC to balance the market. And I think that's what the market is pricing now with crude oil prices are where they are.
This thing is not looking good though. Okay, Dakwa sends a message here. Hi, Roses and Wale. The bad part of this coronavirus with China is that they're trying to downplay the spread so as to minimize the economic impact. China will be better off seeking the right help. Dakwa, it's not pretty. What can we do to raise these issues with revenue now? I mean, it looks like, I don't know, the VAT increase. Some have said that may not have been high enough, although you have to be careful there because of how the impact on people. There's still the issue with the expenditure, subsidies. I mean, with this number now, I'm wondering when the actuals for 2020 come out, if that may actually be even worse. Where do we go? what do we do at this point?
Yeah, so I think the government has started to, I mean, I think last year their decision to raise VAT shows that maybe the revenue problems are becoming a concern for them. And so it's becoming right front and center. And I think decision to raise VAT, some excise duties, and quite a bit of adjustments in the tariff structure, in the tax structure generally, just means they are also becoming aware of that. I mean, I think on the expense side, a lot needs to be done, because, I mean, there's no way you can be running large subsidies on both electricity and power.
Power, yeah.
And you say that, I mean, your revenues aren't coming in line. Also on the import side as well, because a large component of our government revenues also come through from import taxes as well, customs. That's how customs generate their revenues.
Right.
So, I mean, if you're banning things, imports and things, that would also sort of have second order effect on how much you can potentially get. I think overall it just comes back to the strategy of government generally is, do you want a bigger private sector that you can tax, or do you want to leave things the way they are? I mean, the Nigerian government is roughly around 4, 5, 6% of GDP. However, their influence in terms of their laws and regulations
It's 120%.
is way more than that number. So I think government needs to rationalize its regulatory its hold over the economy. Perhaps I think very strongly we should start considering some privatization. I mean, some liberalization. So some sectors that are completely under government dominance, particularly in transport, smaller sectors that you have where, I mean, the government still runs airports, postal services, and all these things.
Right.
These sectors potentially could generate more revenues if managed or run by the private sector. I mean, but the government runs them, so there's almost little way you're going to see much revenue from those sectors as long as they remain. Because, I mean, whether between leakages and those not being efficient in collecting, there's almost little room for that.
This number is scary, Wale. Thanks for that analysis. Benga Kamu says the VAT increase is not actually biting yet, but slowly and surely people will notice that they're paying more. Ibrahim says if revenue is going to reduce, cut costs, or rather, Brian, do you mean if revenue is going to increase, cut costs? Again, no prices guessing where to start. Yep, I think you're going with he's going with the subsidies there. Thank you for that, Ibrahim and Benga. Okay, let's look at this story here from Osun State, and I'm showing here that 120 of their youth are going to get business grants. While I understand, this is it's a small business thing. They want to provide them with jobs. They want to get them on their feet. But does anyone actually track the outcome? Because we keep hearing the announcements, grants here, grants here, grants here. Does anyone ever track the outcome of this? Like these youths in Osun now, what are they going to do with the money? Will I go back and see whether they eventually built businesses with it? What's your take? I mean, it sounds good. I like the news, but I'm starting to question whether these things are effective or not. But what do you think?
I think the problem with some of these schemes, especially when they come through, I mean, they sort of seen as couched under a government political incentive, I mean, constituency. I mean, so it's sort of couched as a political grant or something like that. Not like a political grant, but like it's coming through the government side.
Right.
People tend not to think of it in commercial terms. So, example is just yesterday we were talking about the rice issue.
Yeah, okay, the anchor borrowers, the Kebi loans,
and quite a lot of them said they didn't actually expect to pay those loans back. So, because they felt, I mean, this is a government program. I mean,
right.
So, I think that's always the problem with these grants when you push it through however, if you push it through a private sector system or some of these NGOs that have credibility in that area. Maybe you get more impact out of it, because aside just giving them the money, they probably have trainings, and then there's some sort of mentorship program that ensures that they remain in scheme and they are more disciplined about how they use that money, as against just giving them, and there are no expectations as to whether or not that money will be paid back. So I think generally people will just say, well, it's free money. So
in fact, let's see who sent this. Abiodun is actually echoing what you're just saying now. Abiodun said about the grants, there should be a proper follow-up. I learned some farmers who collected CBN loans said they thought it's free. Loans and free are two parallel lines. Yinka says, I've been reading up on the Chinese hospital that sprung up no thanks to the coronavirus issue. Now, as bad as the situation might be in faraway China, there's a lesson to be learned for us, especially in Nigeria. To build a hospital, we have to call the governor to inaugurate and commission it, and it takes forever to finish. I've been wondering how the Chinese were able to pull it off. That's what Yinka, that was pretty impressive, that they built a hospital within days, man. That was something else. Benga says, Rotus, that program is audio. I think it's referring to the grants for the Oshun youth. That program is audio. Loud noise is made. Sometimes grants are given and no real jobs or empowerment is done. Wale, are you worried about unemployment figures? Since we're talking about helping youth, we still haven't gotten any updates from the Bureau of Statistics since I've been banging on this thing day after day. Since third quarter of this 2020, third quarter 2018, I mean, yeah. What's your guess? I mean, unemployment surely has increased. I mean, I don't know, youth unemployment. We don't have any updates. I mean, what's your take on that side?
Are you waiting for an update?
I mean, they have to tell us something.
I think the big problem is with countries that have a large population like we do, is that not enough jobs are being created related to the amount of people that are coming into the labor force. And if you look at the NBS report for the last 4 years, that's the pattern. You have more people coming to the labor force each year, but not enough new jobs are being created. And again, it goes back to what I'm saying about the economy as a whole. You just have, I mean, our economy today, the biggest driver or the biggest sectors in the economy outside of agriculture, though the formal sector essentially is telecoms, oil and gas, services. Services actually are big. Now, these are sectors that are not labor intensive, but Nigeria is a labor abundant country. Right. So your most abundant resource
is not being utilized
right, by your most productive sectors. So clearly there's a mismatch. So I think it just goes back to what I said, that you need to open up new sectors of growth. I mean, in 2000s, Nigeria created the telecom sector, and that provided a new vista of growth.
Yes.
What's the new sector of growth going forward for us? Okay, what's it going to be? We need to answer that question, and that's why I said perhaps it's time for us to go through another round of liberalization, privatization, open up new sectors to private capital, and then they can expand absorption capacity, employment absorption capacity. But if we keep things the way they are, and we're hoping that somehow SMEs will try to drive the SME narrative. I mean, for large countries with large populations, I'm yet to see anyone that has successfully grown significantly and created jobs without driven by SMEs at the forefront. I think you need some new sectors with significant scale to be able to
pick things up.
Jobs. Yeah.
Now, Andy says here, good morning. The Chinese are exposing our politicians' ineptitude. A mega hospital in 10 days. Shame on us. Modukwe says here, we need to understand that, especially in Nigeria, money alone doesn't answer all things. Yep. Wale was just touching on that right now. Okay, let's look at this this news about us easing visa rules in order to boost trade for the country. Well, what do you think, Wale? And for those that don't know, what exactly did we do here? Visa on arrival and some other things.
Yeah, so I think part of the African free trade agreements. So the government is trying to comply with that, and so they provided visa on arrival for Africans within the free trade zone. They're also allowing Nigerians who have dual citizenships and countries. So some countries do not allow dual citizenship. So so we're saying, okay, you know what, would allow you no issues, no hassles when you come back if you're Nigerian. I think India has something similar, whereby their own citizens, because I think India doesn't have a dual citizenship rule. Okay. So what they're saying is, for their own citizens, don't worry. I mean, they have some sort of scheme that allows them, when they're trying to come back home, no hassles. I think it's just, it's always a good thing to have.
Well, we'll see how that goes. Okay, let me just quickly get your take on this headline here. I think it's from Business Day. Inconsistent policies, insecurity, poor infrastructure to limit FDI inflows in 2020. So it looks like the the lack of FDI inflows are going to continue. It's like we're just singing the same tune year after year, Wale. But your thoughts now?
I mean, Lagos, we already have an example. I mean,
Right.
we've told foreign investors. I mean, we had a policy yesterday, and we just changed it overnight. And I
Right.
think that's always between policies, weak infrastructure. I mean, you will always have your take as to why we're not seeing enough FDI. And of course, as I said, our monetary policy seems to always favor FPI, which is portfolio investors, as
Right.
against FDI. So I think until we change between our taxing, our interest rates policy, we will generally continue to see things that way.
Now, wow. Yinka comes back here. Rutus, what is good news in Osun State? What exactly is in what exactly is in Osun State? As far as I'm concerned, some states shouldn't have governors, rather state administration from Abuja. At least we can save some electioneering costs. And yes, Osun State is part of those states. Have they completed their gbc and they're about to give grants? It's annoying to me because all these are part money sharing gimmicks. Do they expect to get those grants back? Certainly no. So a number of people do not believe that these grants are going to be paid back. Shola says this traffic is killing. Or FDI can't come on because of the traffic jam. It's another issue there. All right. Lastly, Wale, one of I think our metrics picture of the story. One of the brokerage firms came out with some hot stock picks that they had for 2020, but the names look like the usual names. The hot stock list for 2020. Those GTB, Dangsem, Zenith. What do you think? It looks like there's only like what 15 20 stocks on the exchange that everybody's always usually zeroed in on.
That's always one of the big problems, is that you only have 15 to 20 stocks, and once you pick the top cream of each sector, you pretty much have what you're looking for.
And it's just, so if I was asking for your own picks, it won't stray outside of that. How can we get more IPOs? Did we get any IPO last year? I think it was just one or zero. Okay, what am I saying? Of course, so only a couple. But so there's still work to be done in getting more IPOs and getting more listings on the exchange.
Yeah.
Okay, air traffic control signals from Valentine. You and I wanted to fight you this morning. What you guys were saying about the Okada thing? We're running out of time. We'll fight. So
it's difficult to adjust.
You and I are car owners. Anyway, we'll leave that one. We'll leave that one.
Really?
Yes, you're
what
car
owners.
That's why you're optimistic about it. But anyway, Wale Okunrinboye, Head of Investment Research at Sigma Pensions, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your insight. Everybody that sent in messages, thank you so much. We are all here. We'll see how things go. Business Express on Smooth 98.1. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Business Express.
What Ayo was talking about